Okay, everybody.
Let's skip
I'm going to call the regular city council meeting to order. It is Monday, June 27th. It is 6 o'clock. Roll call. Bailey?
Here.
Maureen?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
Dar?
Here.
John? Here. Tom?
Here.
Okay, let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, the council will entertain public comments on any issue related to the agenda items. Limit discussion by council may take place. All right, hearing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Parks and Public Property Committee minutes, May 16th. Library Board minutes, May 19th. Regular City Council meetings, June 13th. St. Croix Sailing Club overnight courtesy dock request, Saturday, September 24th. Amplifier permit request, Saturday, August 6th, from noon to 6 at Freedom Park. Resolution 20-22, informing the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources on the Prescott wastewater treatment plant and utility and fuel bill analysis budget year-to-date.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Is there any
Yes.
discussion on the motion?
Yes, I just,
Maureen?
on page, it's not, on the compliance maintenance annual report, the effluent quality and plant performance for
What page is that,
phosphorus.
Marine?
It doesn't have a page.
The wastewater treatment.
It's deep into the report. It's the one that has a D. And, and it also, I think I just want to see if it's the same industrial discharges that gave us a B on the maintenance annual report as well. It just says what problems, if any, were experienced over the last years, and it said received industrial discharges that would kill off the biology and upset plant. I like that
Well,
expression.
wouldn't that be the discharge that was coming from DMC?
That's what I wanted to know. DMS, isn't it?
DMC.
DMC.
So, yeah, that was the issues that we were having with phosphorus were towards the beginning of 2021 when we were having a large-scale phosphorus kill-off of some of our natural biological bacteria that used to in our sewer treatment plant. So that's when we haven't had that same level of phosphorus discharge since that time.
Okay. And when was that? I've forgotten. Was that in the fall?
There he is,
Okay.
2.44 on that one.
Is that where it is?
2.488, sorry.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yep.
Yep.
So I think we had a smaller one in the fall when I was here, and that's when we did cite them, but I believe there was an even larger one in like February or March.
Okay.
Hey, Matt.
All right, thank you.
There's new owners of Diversify, correct?
Yes, so Diversify
How's
was
that going?
purchased by SV Labs out of California, and so far they've been very good to work with and always very responsive.
Cool.
Any other items on the consent agenda to discuss? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Reports of standing committees, nothing for finance. Public Works, next meeting Monday, August 29th at 5. Planning Commission, next meeting Tuesday, July 5th at 6. Parks and Public Property, next meeting Wednesday, June 29th at 5. Nothing for license. Ordinance is the next meeting is to be determined.
We did decide, we were looking at, what was it, Matt, August 8th?
August 8th at 5 p.m.
5 o'clock.
Before council.
So, before council, August 8th, 5 o'clock. So it would be for Tom and Bailey.
August 8th, not July.
Correct.
I was like, wait a minute, that's Friday. Got it.
Okay, personnel, next meeting Wednesday, August 3rd at 5 o'clock. Okay, communications and new business. Public comments. The city will now receive public comments on any issue not related to agenda items. Limited discussion by the council may take place. However, no action will be taken on any items. This includes receiving written requests or documentation and possible action of future consideration. Matt and I went to Ellsworth, to the county, to, what's the ADRC? Is that the correct
ARPA.
ARPA? Or, I was close, I had the A right. Matt made a really, really good presentation to the committee. So we're, just keep our fingers crossed to see if they're gonna give out any money.
This is from
34 separate entities have come forward for consideration for funds. And you name it, that's who asked for it. They plan on keeping it open until July of next year.
Ooh.
But they could give out funds prior to that. They're gonna review the ones that they have and then make a decision on that. So I just wanted to thank Matt for making the good presentation that he did.
Thank you both for going
Yeah,
and doing, thank you.
I went through those proposals. Oh my gosh, there were a lot of really good ones in there worthy of funding, but boy, the competition's stiff.
Yeah, they came up with a grading checklist
Oh, good.
on if, is it this, it gets 5 points, if it's this, it gets 10, et cetera, and then each one of them are gonna evaluate every single one of them. And then they're gonna get together and decide whose is better than whose, and then move forward with that. Then it has to go to the finance, and then to the board of supervisors. So it's still in infancy.
And if you don't get funding this time round, can you submit the same proposal a second time?
Not through this process, no.
No?
You're talking about the county ARPA funds, correct?
You know about the county
So,
No.
ARPA funds.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Matt.
so the funds that we went to were for the Pierce County ARPA funds that they opened up to everybody.
Oh,
So if you don't get, if they turn you down for funding, there wouldn't be a second opportunity to go back
Oh,
again
back.
for more funds.
oh, I thought you said they were holding some money back. Oh, okay.
And they're looking real hard at, help me out, Matt, what they're trying to spend all their money on, broadband,
Oh, yeah.
extending it out to the extenuating townships and
Yeah.
things like that. They're looking at that. It's not a done deal that they're going to donate all the money to it. But, you know, it sounds like they're gonna be moving forward with something,
But these are federal funds that the county has a certain amount of
yes.
to spend.
Yeah,
The county can decide, basically, is there a specific federal criteria that they need to spend it on, or is it basically anything?
There are some criteria.
I basically understand that this is COVID money,
Yeah.
and the county has been focused on doing broadband throughout the townships and the rural portions of the county since very early in this process. And it's, in my mind, kind of political, because when you look at the population of the county, the majority of that money is going to be distributed on providing broadband to a very narrow group of population within the county. But one could arguably say, because of the makeup of the county board, they would have a tendency to go in that direction. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that the county board can look fully at the population statistics for the county and come up with a fair distribution method for these funds.
As Matt pointed out, or we talked about earlier, our use, or our request for that water would help serve roughly 10% of the county's population and only ask for about 2% of their funding. For some,
5% of their funding.
5% of their funding, excuse me, thank you, for something that is fairly critical.
And that's one of their criteria that they're looking at, is what, you know, for lack of a better term, getting the best bang for your buck.
Right.
So,
I do think that broadband is really, even though it's a smaller population, they learned through COVID that it was very difficult for students living out of the city to participate in school because of they'd have to go and park someplace where they could get better internet reception so they could go to school. And I do think that this is a critical issue for people that do live outside of cities.
I agree.
But, you know, I would like to have a little bit of the money spread around more evenly.
thank you. Any other public comments? Mr. Langenfeld?
I'm sorry, which part are we in?
We're on public comments right now.
Oh, excuse me, sir, Mayor. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry I'm late getting here, but
You're just in time.
thanks a lot. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thomas Langenfeld. I'm a taxpayer in Prescott for 50 years. And I have requested twice to be put on the agenda for you, but I have been turned down. So I'm speaking to you in the open meeting portion of the meeting to request that I could be possibly put on the agenda again. Excuse me. I have no notes with me or anything because I didn't think it would be proper to bring them along at this time. As you recall, I believe there were 3 of you on the council at time, about 3 years ago, when I came in and asked about an abatement for assessments put on a property that I own just down the street down here on Henry Street and Hampshire Street. And I vehemently stated my point that I had been assured by the city council in 1985 that if I paid for the portion of Oren Road that was put out there, that I would never have to pay for curb and gutter again on that particular property. How much time have I got, Rob? Can I have a few minutes?
A few minutes.
Pardon me?
A few minutes.
Thank you very much. Okay. At that time, then City Administrator Jane Brand came to the council and testified to the council that she went through all the minutes of the meetings and could find nothing in there to adequately or to verify what I had said. At that time, I was quite baffled as I had told the truth, and I was guaranteed by the council that I would never have to pay it again. The vote was taken, and Mayor, Ms. Otwell, and Dara were there, and all 3 voted against me, but all 3 graciously stated, in fact, that without anything in writing, there was just no way that they would like to believe me, but without anything in writing, they really had no choice. They had to vote it down, and so I lost 4-2, and it cost me $10,000. Subsequent to that time, a couple years later, there was another issue that came up on my buildings down the street, in which Ms. Brand, again, started going back and forth and making a hell of an issue out of it, we won't get into that at this particular time. But it required a reading of the minutes that she had already said. If she had read those minutes, you would be able to see, in fact, that that she was incorrect. She was wrong. It's right there. I had never seen those minutes. I took everybody's. You guys probably hadn't seen them either. You took her word at it again. So consequently, I filed a federal public request for all information that the city of Prescott had on me regarding those buildings. And when those things came, one of the things that came in there were the minutes of the 1985 city council minutes. And guess what's in there? it's in there that the city council ruled that there would be no curb and gutter payments paid on those lots. Ms. Brand either lied to you, or she didn't see it, or she skimmed it, or she didn't read it at all. I can show you those minutes. And based upon the fact that the three of you stated emphatically, I got the tape of the meeting, that if we just had something in writing, we would grant your wish. So I've asked twice, and I'm asking now. I've been turned down twice to have a rehash of it in the council meeting. I'm bringing it to you, the council people, in open session right now to ask that can be done. I'd be more than happy to show you the minutes before the meeting. I'd be happy to show you the minutes during the meeting. I'd be happy to show you everything that was in there that I had said at that particular time and explaining to you, and that you could see them at that particular point. I realize that it was voted down 4-2, but it's quite often that you see on television or you see anywhere where somebody's in jail for 20 years and he said he didn't do it. And then new evidence comes out, and lo and behold, guess what? They see it and they say, holy God, we've made a mistake. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm asking at this particular time that I would like to have a reconsideration of and an abatement on the assessments that were put on for curb and gutter on the properties down, which we're referring to, based upon the fact that I can show you in the minutes where the city was there and that you were misled. If you have any comments or questions, I'd be happy to take them. I'm not quite certain how you would put this into this thing. I asked Matt a couple of times about it. I understand he's got his rules. I get it, okay. But this is something that needs to be addressed. And there are other, strike that again, there probably will be some other issues that will be coming out of that separate from this particular situation based upon the actions of Ms. Brand and her.
Does the city have a copy of all that?
If you have the minutes, you would have it. I can show them to you.
So,
I didn't ask you that, Todd. I asked you, have you turned that over to the city to show them?
I got them from the city. Yes. And I've attempted to show it, and I've been turned down.
so, yeah, we have the 1985 minutes and we sent it to them. We obviously have a differing of opinion of what's in the minutes and what's said in the minutes, so
Okay.
we can definitely forward out the 1985 minutes if you would like to see them and review all of them. The problem, again, of course, is the assessment is well past, the issue of the refunding the assessment, I guess, is what Mr. Langenfeld is asking for, so then we would have to come up with the reserves to pay back that money. Again, that 4-2 agreement was done, I think, back in 2018.
Be about 2-3 years ago. Yeah.
So-
That's right. And again, had I been aware of that, had you guys read those minutes, it's my contention that you would have seen them in there. Because it's quite evident that the council, in the minutes, the council actually moved, had a resolution, and it was voted on, and it was unanimously approved that that road would remain under the previous
Okay,
rules.
So why don't you send us all a copy of that so we can look at it, Matt? And we'll go from there.
Would that go to a committee maybe first to review that, or?
I'll be more than happy to do anything to present that to you, to show it to you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
Todd.
Okay.
Then
So does that mean now I just wait, do I wait to hear from you guys, or what do
Yeah.
we do?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, any other public comment?
In this matter?
No.
Okay, I had one comment about this matter.
Don't want to get into the,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. So, we have a public hearing to review the liquor license applications and fermented malt beverage applications for July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Open up the, I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open up the public hearing for
Second.
the liquor licenses.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now open.
Make a motion, well, I guess we don't make a motion till we're closed, or we make it now?
Just one question. I've gone through and tried to kind of get an understanding of what each of these businesses is and does and how they use their licenses and so forth. And the only one I have a question about, and if this isn't the place you'll feel comfortable you're telling me, is combination license for Leo's Landing. So they have on-off sale or only off sale? A combination is,
Combination is just signifying that they have malt beverage and liquor. So they only have Class A are all off sale. You can carry off the premise.
carry off the premise.
Yes.
So they can sell liquor to go
Yeah,
if they chose.
they can buy like
Like if
12
you
packs
went around the
or,
country,
I don't
they
know
got
what
like
they'll
one
sell
off
there,
sale.
but that's what.
That's totally what it
But
is.
they do that down at the,
At the little gas stack, I think that's where they do it.
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
I'd say, because
If it's open, I don't even know if it's open right now.
well,
I don't- I don't-
and that was a question that was brought up to me. If it's not open, and they're not utilizing that,
You can pull.
is there something to be said to ask them, hey, because I know, again, there are people who would be interested in that, and if it's just sitting there dead, it's not generating
That would
revenue
be-
taxes
that
for
should
the
be a-
city, but, and again, you tell me
So,
just my thoughts.
I think that should be a conversation, whoever's wondering about that should reach out to them and say, hey, since you're not using this, and I noticed your gas stack was shut down, would you be open to releasing your liquor license and bringing that to the city?
Okay.
Matt?
so I guess historically speaking, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the businesses down at the riverfront have always had the partial hours. They're not open at all in the wintertime, but they're
Right.
open somewhat in the summer. And we've always approved them based understanding that as the knowledge. Whereas based on our previous discussion, we are capped by the state and how many Class Bs we have, and we have set our own kind of self-quota in terms of Class As. So that's, I guess, in terms of historically where we're speaking. And in terms of if somebody's interested, I guess to Bailey's point, you can always approach them. And
Okay.
That's not really for us to like get involved in a business transaction. That's just like how Quick Trip came about like
Understandable.
the,
They love it
screw up the
from
name.
Churchill.
Thank you. I was like, what was the name of the company?
I had a
Yeah.
question about the city holding a Class B combination license for the development of a new restaurant at the former Steamboat property. That's still being held? Okay.
So yeah, we've had multiple years now from what I understand that St. Croix Liquor LLC, that's the one down by the riverfront, and then Point St. Croix Marina have requested that Class B, but we have turned them down in the past, and that would be the recommendation. Assuming we want to continue moving forward with that, holding that Class B would be the recommendation before
And what's the
tonight.
purpose for continuing to hold that?
So the idea would be that if that parcel that's not undeveloped, not generating any sort of tax revenue, that we could use that as, at least this is historically speaking, from what I understand as well, of why we've done it. We would hold it then so that we could use that as an incentive for a restaurant, because right now, if we gave that away and a restaurant wanted to develop their, we would have no liquor, Class B liquor license to give them until we
And
have.
that's the one that's capped by the state?
Yep.
Okay.
And if I may ask, do we know in the last 5 years, have we had any active that we know of interest in a restaurant going in there?
Vague. I mean,
Yeah, they've had a couple of plans, but they never got any financial backing. They're pretty upside down on their, on their property, and
Ask
it's
her.
also if a restaurant or a business came in, not just there, or somewhere else in the city, that it'd be there. And then we won't get another until we hit another 500 population growth. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so every 500 population, we get another Class B license.
How often is that census done?
Every 10 years.
10 years.
When's the next one due?
10 years?
9 years.
Yeah, it was literally just
On the-
redone.
On the odds.
2020.
Okay.
One point I would like to make about the Point St. Croix application. They already have a on-sale malted liquor license, beer license, I believe. And they just want to upgrade it to a full liquor license. And I would point out that that entire property is owned by the city of Prescott.
Business isn't.
And it's leased to that business. So that's just something to think about in that situation.
And we were, I think the council thought about this, holding this license because we want to encourage a restaurant coming into town more than like a bar. And that was my understanding from previous discussions we've had.
There was at one point in time some discussion of a hotel restaurant up at a place that's now currently being renovated. But, you know, it was an open thought, I believe, for a developer
Yeah.
to come in and do a major development.
Yeah.
Class B, again, the Class B combination license is, B is on sale and off sale, is that right?
B is on sale, A is off sale.
B is on sale, so why would St. Croix Liquor want a on sale?
They wanted to build another building in that space between the hotel and their business.
I see.
That was their intention, and if they didn't get a liquor license, they weren't gonna build that.
Got it.
They wanted to put a restaurant in there? Yeah, this was a while,
Yeah,
this was
but
a
they
while
didn't
ago.
have any
There's no
concrete
plan,
plans.
yeah.
Okay, any other comments for the open meeting?
Do you need to come out of,
We do?
make a motion to come out of the open meeting, go to,
Second?
To close the
All in favor
public
of coming
hearing.
out of the public
Yeah.
hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
make,
Okay, now we'll,
make a motion to approve all the licenses that are listed.
I'll second it.
we have a motion,
So-
a second.
Sorry.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
The licenses as listed do include St. Croix Liquor and Point St. Croix Marina for that application of the Class B, so the motion would just also have to, unless we want to change it, but then so we would just have to remove those. The motion would be to approve with the removal of Point St. Croix and St. Croix Liquor from the combination Class B.
I would adjust my motion to do the following.
Yeah, you need to amend your motion.
I would amend it with the exclusion of the two that Matt had stated.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is McGee Park goat proposal. Consideration to approve proposal for goat grazing at McGee Park to remove buckthorn.
I just want to start with, like, I'm sure everyone's looking at this price like, man, it seems like a lot for goats. It's not. It's really not, especially if you go down there and start clearing buckthorn, because you end up bloody battered and wanting to just cry. So I actually asked Israel to help get quotes on goats, because we have so many saplings down there, and like even large buckthorn, where it's like, there's a lot of work to be done down there to even get it clear to the point where we can start putting trails in. And if we're competing against buckthorn constantly every year with these
We'll lose.
saplings, we're gonna lose. So just FYI, I know the price seems maybe a little high for goats, but we do have 50,000 put aside in our parks budget, and I think this would be a valid way of spending it. So I don't have to be bloody on the weekends if I have to go clear buckthorn again. Sorry, Israel. I really love helping, but I really don't like doing that. Yeah.
Flamethrowers are not
I
approved.
do have a chainsaw prepared for the next round, but yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in before you started going.
So I'll turn it over to Israel for a second, but just to Bailey's point, there is $50,000 that we budgeted in parks escrow upkeep money. This year we have spent about $5,902, and then we have another pending of $1,545, so we still have a total of $42,553 within that parks escrow. So if we went ahead and moved forward with these proposals, that's where that money would come from. Israel did graciously gather the proposals, so I'll turn it over to him to talk a little bit about the proposals and his recommendation.
Well, yeah, thank you, Bailey, and thank you, John, and others who have been down there clearing buckthorn. on behalf of the city. As you know, the buckthorn problem is a serious problem, and I'm just going to read off the statement that you have, and then take some questions if you have questions about the specific contractors that I talked with. At McGee Park is definitely infested with buckthorn. We have just completed almost our second phase of the natural resources survey as well. We've had volunteers putting in, it'll be probably about 50 to 80 hours worth of work walking through the woods and documenting this. And so we have some nice new reports that did not include that show the infestation of invasive woody species, not just buckthorn, but there's also other kinds of invasive plants like prickly ash and black locust and honeysuckle is all over the place. There are other plants that goats can help with too that are not woody invasives like garlic mustard and things like that. So the goats will go and clear out the corridor, allow natural species to grow. They will not deal with the buckthorn issue in one grazing. So that's the important thing for you to understand about this.
I need a second.
You're going to need multiple grazings if we want to use goats. Here's what the goats will do. The goats will clear out corridors and make it a lot easier for people to get in there and navigate. We will follow up. We'll still need to get in there, and there are a lot of volunteers who are willing to help with buckthorn management manually. We'll still need to get in there, chop buckthorn, apply herbicide, because the goats aren't going to kill everything. And when they clear out this area, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Permar Security is calling me. 1 second. It's a city building.
That's a big one.
Hello, Israel speaking.
Someone's trying to get it for you.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, that would suck.
That is an accident. Can you lodge it as such and not call the police? Pretty important. Thank you.
I got that at 3 a.m. and I just
All right.
felt panic because I said they weren't.
The building was not locked up properly. Sorry about that. Okay, back to goats. Back to goats. So the goats are one grazing is going to open up the area, but it is going to create more problems initially, okay? Because it's going to clear in the area, and then there are still berries under there, and seeds of buckthorn and other woody invasives that are going to see the light start growing, okay? So this is going to be an ongoing management issue, but the initial work is going to be a lot easier if goats go in first, clear things out, and then we follow it up with aggressive trail management. We're going to be cutting trails, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan. Once we get heavy equipment in there, we start moving soil around, and we have a team of volunteers to continually maintain the trail corridors. It's going to be a lot easier. So goats are not a long-term, they're not going to eradicate things completely. Every goat contractor that I talked to emphasized one grazing is going to be really helpful, but you're really going to need 6 to 8 grazings they recommend a spring and a fall grazing. The spring grazing hits the buckthorn because the buckthorn is the first to grow. If you go in the woods in the spring, the first green is buckthorn. If you're in the woods in the fall, the last green is buckthorn. So you bring in goats in the early season and in the late season, they take care of the invasives. But right now, what you are considering, I think, for this year is just opening it up for trail creation. There are 3 goat contractors that I talked to. There are other goat contractors as well. These are 3 contractors that we considered at Freedom Park. All of them would do an excellent job. I'll be completely frank. All of them will do an excellent job. Some have more experience than others. Some have more goats than others. Some have more ecological understanding than others. But goats are goats, and they're going to bring in 100 to 150 goats in a 30-acre spot, and those goats are going to do the work. So I have confidence in all of the contractors. I have the most confidence with, unfortunately, the most expensive contractor, Diversity Landworks. They are the ones that worked with us at Freedom Park, brought their goats for 2 subsequent grazings, and I have a lot of confidence in them and the Great River Greening that we contracted our goat contractors through. They are the ones that recommended Great River Green or Diversity Landworks as well. But again, I deliver that to you for consideration. You'll make the right decision on those contractors. Any of them could do it, and they're all available and waiting eagerly to see what direction you might want to go if you want to do goats. Questions? Yes.
What did you mean by, you said that the reason why you like diversity landmarks is because they have an ecological understanding?
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
and that's what can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'm not familiar with that.
Sure. So Kyle is the head of Diversity Landworks. He has a degree in ecology. He brings an expertise not just with working with goats, but has a lot of background into, he'll come and assess the site, for instance, and use that ecological understanding to help assess how are the goats doing in this area? Do we need to pull them off here? Are they creating too much damage in this section? So I have a lot of confidence in his knowledge. He's worked extensively, as you can see in his PDF that he provided in his proposal. He's worked extensively with government agencies and large-scale operations up and down the river. He has a lot of experience in bluffs, which is why we had him at Freedom Park. This area in McGee Park does have some bluffs. It's not quite the same type of habitat as Freedom Park, but that's what I mean by the ecological experience. Okay. Yeah. Dana at Scapegoats also has, or I mean at Goat Dispatch also has formal ecological training in his past and has been doing this work for 10 years. They are so busy right now. They are swamped. They're going all over the place, and they've scaled. They have a herd that they could bring in. But Kyle, I think, has, and Diversity Landworks has, in my understanding, the most experience from an ecological standpoint.
I had a question regarding scapegoats. I read their communication pretty thoroughly.
Yep.
And it looks to me like they're kind of the new kids on the block.
They are. Yeah, he just recently got into it.
But he mentioned 40 goats.
Right.
Now, what is the number of goats that Diversity would bring to the project?
Diversity would bring in between 100 and 150, and so it all depends on the herd, and they'll evaluate based on, because they'll do visits and they'll see how things are going. They have a herd, Diversity has a herd right now working at Afton State Park, and that herd would probably be the herd if you decided to go with Diversity, and if they started in July. He'd probably pull the goats off of Afton and put them right here in the McGee.
So does this shut the park down then for a certain time frame?
It would for 2-3 weeks, and maybe a little more, depending on, goats. You can crack the whip a little bit, but you just never know how everything's going to grow and how fast they're going to eat and how many babies they're going to have and all that kind of thing.
And it
So
does bring attractions too. People want to come and see him at Freedom. They were coming to see him, so it'll be gated off, but people could probably still see the goats and the little baby goats.
Yeah, and as they move through it, just like it happened at Freedom Park, and I think many of you had been down there, brought your kids down to see the goats at Freedom Park. They worked really fast in Freedom Park because it was only about 1.5 acres. So here we have 13 acres. We do want to provide as much accessibility as we can because we want this to be a promotion too, not just a combating the invasives. We want this to be a community excitement. So
Could you sponsor a goat? Didn't you guys do sponsor?
we could. We potentially
Sponsor an
could.
acre?
Totally.
Maybe do it through our steering. Not the
Totally.
steering
We
wheel.
haven't looked at it as a fundraising mechanism at this point, but I think it would be a really natural way to do that. There's some possibilities depending on who we'd go with. For Scapegoats, he doesn't have as many goats, and so he'd probably set up smaller paddocks and fence them off in smaller areas that people could come along in trails. And the easiest way is just to fence off the whole 13 acres and let the goats wander anywhere. The technique that takes a little more work and more visits is to use smaller paddocks and then move the goats around from week to week.
I would personally like to see more goats down there, and if you've had success with the diversity landworks, I guess I personally do not have an issue with paying the additional funds if it's gonna be done right, and they're also gonna keep in mind what we need done for down there and how to address it appropriately. Just from like a long-term perspective, if we get something that's short-term, I'm not saying these people are, inexperienced or not gonna do a good job, I'm definitely not saying that. It's just with the magnitude and the fact that it's taxpayer money, I feel better about going with someone that's gonna be more experienced and that can do it. It is gonna be a difficult, down there is just not very nice.
No, it's
So
not. Goats
it's gonna
will
be a
love
lot.
it, but
Yeah, the goats will like it,
Yeah.
but, so I guess I don't have an issue with the 7,800. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion on that.
So due to the larger number of goats that the diversity would bring in, would that make it get cleaned up quicker?
Yeah. More goats,
So
just like
scapegoats they may take twice as long to clear it out than it is.
Could be. Depends on the size of the goats, how hungry the goats are. Depends on, depends on
Weather
a lot of
and heat,
factors. It
everything
depends
else.
on the weather and how much grows. If it's all dry if it's a drought for 2 weeks, then they'll go through that leaf, the green stuff a lot faster than if it's constantly replenishing.
And especially if we can see from the steering committee side to see if this is a potential fundraising opportunity of like naming a goat or something, it might be able to help cover funds for future goat grazings if we want to do them in the spring and the fall to help management.
Totally. Yep. And that might be something that can shift to donor funded projects in the future. Who
I
knows?
just think we need to be the ones to make the first move because it's rough. John, if you would, it's rough.
It's thick down there.
Yeah, it's thick.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking for 7,800 today.
Yep.
Correct.
But as you said, we're looking at, probably 6 rounds to do this.
Over
Right,
years.
If this is something that, yep,
And over about how much time?
over, twice a year, so 6 to 8,
3 years.
so 3 to 4 years.
Okay. And those future funds, because, this sounds like a great idea, we're gonna start this. Those future funds, do we have any idea where those would come from, and I guess
That's
some of
what
it
we
may
were
be
just-
sponsorship and things like that, or?
So we have 50,000 in our parks budget,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it'd be up to Parks Committee to see, is this something that we want to pay for every year?
Keep doing.
Do we want to partner with the Cool River Trails group
Mm-hmm.
and see if they can help do funding? So I would say
And
right
maybe
now,
some sponsorship?
it's to open it up just so we can get in there and
Sure,
start
okay.
cutting trails. Because right now you can't even really get down there into the areas that we need to
tough.
get in.
Okay.
Stuff. And subsequent grazings, we haven't received proposals for subsequent grazings.
Those may change.
That will probably, if we contracted in the future with one of these contractors, something you should know too about goats, it's best, and contractors will usually want to keep the same herd grazing after grazing because each herd has a unique worm profile, intestinal worms. And so goats can get sick if you bring a different herd in after a previous herd has been working in that area. So, but subsequent grazings may be cheaper significantly because they'll be cleared out, the corridors will already be set for fencing, all that kind of stuff, because the contractor has come in and
Already taken some.
cut path for electric fencing and that
Especially
kind
if
of
we're
thing.
already doing trail maintenance.
Right.
Like the part in Freedom, you guys are kind of cutting it for prairie and then
Yep.
kind of leaving it, which
Yep.
we're gonna have bikers back there and people doing trail maintenance, so
Sure.
it might end up being a better
The
deal.
whole landscape of McGee Park could change pretty dramatically in a year or two. And so that would change the strategy for
Hopefully with less
goats,
poison
too.
ivy.
And-
Yes,
And we are working on a memorandum of understanding with,
correct,
yeah, that's what I
correct.
thought.
So, yeah, from a Cooley River Trails standpoint, this is not coming from Cooley River Trails. If it were coming from Cooley River Trails,
coming
Cooley River
from-
Trails is represented by
Yeah.
Friends of Freedom Park. Cooley River Trails is under the fiscal sponsorship of Friends of Freedom Park. But this would
is
be a
my
city
ask.
thing.
Yeah.
This is a Bailey's special ask, since I had a little experience with goats.
Yeah, thank you.
And she's been down there and got bloody doing it.
Right, right.
With John's brother-in-law. Both Rick and I are both bleeding.
Okay,
What do we
any
need to
other
do?
question?
I would make the motion to approve the bid with Diversity Landmarks for $7,800 coming out of the parks budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I guess the only other thing I would ask is would Diversity be willing to meet one of the lower bids? Knowing that we went out, put this out for multiple,
Seasons.
goat vendors?
We sure could ask them. Yeah, we didn't have that
That's great. Great
specified, and
question.
this was not a formal RFP, but we could definitely go back and ask.
So I'll just say not to exceed then. Yeah, not to exceed $7,800, so if they come down.
Okay.
Great
So I'll
question.
amend mine.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Israel. Thank you, Bailey. Okay, the next item is a resolution 21-22, approving a raise order for the building at 445 Court Street.
I would make the motion to approve a raise order for 20-22?
I'll second that.
21-22?
Okay, do we have any discussion on the motion?
Just do it.
Does everybody know what a raise order is?
Yes.
Did you read your packet?
yep.
Yes.
It means
Yes.
we're telling them to tear the building down.
If-
One question I had is, if the building does not get tore down upon our request, what's the next step?
Matt?
And that was it. We
So-
discussed that.
There's a couple options. First, what we can do if we want to choose to move forward after 30 days, there's no compliance. We can, as the city, say we are going to spend the money to tear it down ourselves, and then we're going to apply it as a special charge against the property taxes of this property. And it would be a lien on the property until it's paid. The issue becomes, there's only, I think it's 10 years that a lien would stay on the property, so if for some reason the property does not move forward with sale or development during that time, we would just be out that money. That would be the risk we would take if we went that route. From talking with the property owner, once we did say we were gonna move forward with this, we did meet with him. He said he's going to put together 2 proposals for maintenance of and development of the property, with the idea that he would move forward with them in terms of maintenance this year. I was very clear with him that we haven't seen any sort of that maintenance occur, at least for the time I've been here. And that, I think we'd want to move forward with demolition and ideally sale of the land to a different party if the 2 options that he's proposing. One would be tearing down the building and doing townhomes. The other would be keeping the building and redeveloping it in the future. But he's already proposed that, I think, 3 different times since he's owned it and has not moved forward with it.
So like one reason why I was so fast to approve this, one, I don't see him. He's not here.
Yeah.
And the building is in disarray. I don't even know how someone could go in there. I mean, you might have your footings are probably fine. But other than that, I don't know what else you're gonna do to that building to make it be like, okay, let's not tear it down and I'm gonna rehab it. I don't know how they're gonna do that. After I went down there and went and looked at it.
It was in bad shape.
It's in bad shape
Before
now.
that.
The yard ain't being taken care of. It's like, we're having issue beyond issue beyond issue in the neighborhood. We still have cops coming through like all the time because of problems. And it's a nice neighborhood.
And Eric, as a response to that, has asked his officers to actually do security checks. So some of those, there's been 36 incident reports that have been done from the property since the beginning of 2021. Some of those are Eric saying, okay, I want you to go down and actually do a security check and report it as an incident so people realize that we are looking on it because we've had so many problems with it. And we did express that to the owner when we met with him.
And the neighbors in the neighborhood have brought a petition forward. And last council meeting, some of the neighbors came and talked to us about it. So it's an issue, and if you haven't been there, you need to go over there and see how terrible it really is.
I have one question in
Go ahead, Tom.
regard to demolition of the building by the city. Did we not do that with the old Steamboat Inn downtown? I believe the city demolished that building. Oh, they did not, okay.
We're asking the owner to demolish with a raise order.
No, we gave money towards that when they were going to demolish the building. And then they in turn had to pay it back since they did not develop it. But that had circumstances to where the footprint had to remain. That's why they didn't want anybody else to do it, otherwise they weren't gonna be able to build there if the original footprint didn't remain there. That's why that foundation is still in there.
They would lose their DNR permitting for the St.
Right.
Croix side.
So anyway, we have a resolution. We have a,
Yeah, just one more
Go ahead.
question. So
Absolutely.
if we did force them, or if they did decide to raise this, I'm assuming, and I hate to do that, that's why I'm bringing this up, that there are some standards or guidelines at which they would have to follow to do that, that they wouldn't just knock this building down and leave a pile of rubble, that when it rains is gonna cause all kinds of other trouble or this or that. And when somebody does do this, if he doesn't do it right, we can hold him accountable for that. They can't just come in and knock some walls over and go, oh, we knocked it down and slide out. Am I correct, or?
Correct. So we would be requiring them to remove all of the demolition materials from the property
Clean it
and then
and-
grade and
Okay.
ideally seed it. Just one point to the council as well, as part of this raise order is required by state statute that this is done by a roll call vote, just so.
Okay.
So,
oh, okay. All right, any other discussion on the motion? If not, Bailey,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Dar,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to move into a closed session. Closed session per Wisconsin statute 19.585, considering employment, promotion, compensation, performance, evaluation, data of any employee which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And so, letter A, city administrator.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think we have to roll call.
I think per,
Marie,
Aye.
Bailey,
Aye.
Pat,
All right.
Dar,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Okay, we're in closed session.